Hey guys, we got another miracle today. This one is awesome, and as they all are, but I love the little nuances between the different miracles. I love how there's little things here and there that happen. There's little differences between Matthew, Mark, and Luke. There's differences in the miracle and how it happens. And today we're going to Mark. This miracle is found in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I kind of prefer the Mark version of this miracle, and this is Jesus healing a blind man. And we're going to Mark 10. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. 46. So it came out of, we'll just start reading 46. We'll just start going. But Jesus is going to heal a blind man. And let's look at the different things that happen in this story that we can connect to our lives. And they came out to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho with his disciples, Jesus coming out with his disciples, and a great number of people, blind Bartimaeus, I don't know how to say that. Bartimaeus is what it sounds like to me. It looks like the son of Timaeus sat by the highway side begging. So Bartimaeus sitting by the side of the highway begging. Huge crowd coming along. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out. And I think it's Luke says, or Matthew, it made it sound like he asked, like, what's going on? And someone told him that Jesus is coming. Bartimaeus was super excited about this. He's like, oh yeah, because everyone knows that he heals people. So he began to cry out and say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And there's a huge crowd of people, lots of people. Jesus is probably on his way somewhere, somewhere important. And it almost sounds like he's told the crowd, this is where we're headed. Let's get going. And 48, and many charged him that he should hold his peace. So the crowd was telling Bartimaeus to be quiet. No, just don't bother Jesus. Calm down. And I don't know why this was, because it sounds like, in my head, if you're walking along with Jesus in a crowd of people and you see someone who's blind or has leprosy or whatever it is, and they're calling out to Jesus to be healed, you'd be like, hey, Jesus, like, it's go time. And you'd step aside and you try and bring that person to Jesus or whatever, you try and make that happen. But now the crowd is stopping this person. So to me, who wasn't there, it seems like Jesus had said, we are going here. Can I have some peace on our walk or whatever? Like, it sounds like something else was important to the crowd. So they're trying to keep other people away. And that was kind of accepted by the crowd, that they were keeping people away at that time. Yes, I think they were all following Jesus because of what he was teaching. They were all following Jesus to be healed and for these types of miracles. And for some reason, the crowd was trying to keep this person away. But I'm guessing there was probably some good reason. But this is cool. But he cried, Bartimaeus, he cried the more a great deal. So they told him to shut up. And he starts yelling more loudly. He starts yelling out more intently for Jesus. Thou son of David, have mercy on me. So he said it twice now. He's cried out twice to Jesus. The second time, more loudly over the crowds. And Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. So that second time, he yelled out for Jesus. Jesus stopped and told the crowd or his disciples or whoever to bring this person to Jesus. And they called a blind man, saying unto him, be of good comfort, rise, he calleth thee. So they told him, be of good comfort, get up, let's walk over here, Jesus is calling you. So now that Jesus has said something, now they're like, oh yeah, well, let's go get this guy. Hey buddy, be of good comfort, get up, come over here. So now they're being super nice to Bartimaeus, it sounds like, when they weren't as much before. But getting in, I'm sure there was other stuff going on. I'm sure 2,000 years ago, me reading my stories, this probably changed a little from translations from what happened. So they tell him, be of good comfort, rise, he calleth thee. So that is the disciples telling him to be of good comfort. Of good reason, because they've heard Jesus tell everyone to be of good comfort. So they're like, yeah, we can tell him that too. Jesus is here. I like it. And he, casting away his garment, rose, came to Jesus, threw off his cloak or whatever he had on, threw it off, and came to Jesus. And Jesus answered and said unto him, what wilt thou that I should do unto thee? The blind man said unto him, Lord, that I might receive my sight. And Jesus saith unto him, go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. And immediately he received his sight and followed in the way. He followed Jesus in the way. This is awesome, and there's a couple things that I want to look at because I think this is really cool. In the beginning, as soon as he hears Jesus, he yells out, oh, Jesus is here. He yells out for Jesus. And that is huge. So the crowds are telling him to be quiet, and he yells out louder. And I love that, especially today. In today's world, I think Christianity is more under attack. It's less acceptable than it has been in years past. And to yell out and be Christian and promote your faith isn't the cool thing to do, for sure. And he yelled out for Jesus. A whole crowd of people. He wasn't ashamed. He wasn't feeling bad. He wasn't stepping back. He yelled out for Jesus with hundreds of people there. The crowds told him to be quiet. It sounds like all of them. He's all alone. His voice against hundreds of other people. And when they tell him to be quiet, the people that are following Jesus, they tell him to be quiet. He yells louder. He yells louder for Jesus. I think this is huge. It'd be cool sometimes, I think, for us if Jesus always answered our first prayer, God answered our first prayer, but I don't think that's how it works. I think sometimes we need to call again. We need to ask again. We need to ask more loudly. We need to ask more intently. And I love that he didn't back down. He didn't back down in professing his faith to Jesus. He did not back down in wanting to be healed of Jesus. He knew Jesus could heal him. Everyone was against him. He'd gone his whole life. I don't know how long he'd gone without being able to see. Maybe it was an infection. Maybe it hadn't been that long. But he'd probably tried everything, I'm sure, over some time. And he knew that Jesus would be healed. Jesus could heal him. And he did not stop. He yelled louder for Jesus, which I love. They told him to be of good comfort, rise, and go to him. And in Matthew, there's two people. So I don't know. Mark, I like the Mark version better. So there might have been another person, or there was another person, but in Mark, we're learning about Bartimaeus, his adventure. 50, and he, casting away his garment, rose and came to Jesus. I love this. I don't know what his garment was. To me, it seems like he was begging on the side of the road. His garment or cloak or coat or whatever he had over him, when you looked at him, you could probably tell he was a beggar from what he was wearing. And him casting aside, we'll just say it's a cloak or something that protected him. He threw that aside. And I think that is a huge sign of faith, because I'm throwing this aside. I don't need this clothing's protection anymore. I'm not going to be a beggar anymore. I'm not without a home anymore. I'm not in need anymore, because I know Jesus is going to heal me. I know in a minute I'm going to be better. I don't need this. Someone else can have this. He left his old life behind. He's throwing it back. And I love that. And I think about, like, when we follow Jesus, what are we willing to, throw aside? What can I throw aside? What habit can I throw aside? How I treat people. Do I treat people poorly? Do I have something in my life that does not line up with my new relationship with Jesus? And when I'm following Jesus, what am I throwing aside? What can I leave behind? What is that anchor keeping me from following Jesus? Now, his garment, whatever it was, his cloak, probably wasn't preventing him from walking to Jesus. But casting it aside, I love the symbolism of casting something aside to follow Jesus, something that's holding us back, something of our old life. This is where I am now. When I start following Jesus, I don't need that something because Jesus will take care of me. Jesus will heal me, and the healed version of me does not need this. Bartimaeus thought the healed version of me is not a beggar, is not like this. I'm leaving this behind, my new life. And you know, what else do we have in life? When Jesus heals us and we start that new life, we start that 2.0, what is it? But he threw his cloak aside before he was healed. He threw it aside and then was healed. And it might just be a little thing. It might not have any meaning, but to me it's got a lot of meaning. And I think it's really cool that he chucked that thing aside. Oh, awesome. And he asked Jesus, continuing on, I know we read this, we're just reviewing it again. The man wanted to receive his sight, and Jesus immediately answered his desire. He desired to have his sight restored. Now, everyone probably has something like, if I saw Jesus and I was healed, I would want to be healed of this. There's that one thing, like, I would want to be healed of this physical problem that I'm having, a habit that I'm having. I'd like to be healed of this. I'd like to feel this, whatever. Like, there's the one thing. And I think that probably anything he asked for, he probably would have received. And it was his sight that he wanted to receive. Jesus said, "Go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole." Again, talk about that in most of our videos. What healed this person? Yes, Jesus. What was the path this man took to take advantage of the power that Jesus has? How did he get from here and use that power of Jesus's in his own life? It was his faith. He yelled out to Jesus. He stood up. He threw his cloak aside. He approached Jesus. He left where he was physically, and he went to where Jesus is physically and spiritually, and asked to be healed. He took that path. The faith that he had to yell over the crowd a second time, to take that journey, leave his stuff behind, and go to Jesus is huge. That faith showed, and sure, it's what's in his heart and stuff, but he had the faith, and he took those steps to follow Jesus. And again, I feel like what he did wasn't huge. Like, Jesus didn't, he asked, he got up, he yelled out again. He did these things. They're not huge things. He didn't climb Mount Everest and then run a marathon and then fast for 3 months and do all this stuff. And sometimes I feel like we think Jesus isn't going to love me. Jesus isn't going to heal me unless I go on this huge, giant journey. And sometimes we probably do have a journey to go through, depending on how entrenched we are in whatever we want to be healed from. I think that Jesus heals us much more quickly. I think Jesus is willing to do gigantic freaking miracles in our lives by small, tiny gestures. Throwing your coat aside, yelling out, yelling out again, walking up to him, doing all this. These are the gestures. Not years and years of fasting and service, and I'm going to spend 100 hours of service and then Jesus will heal me. I feel like sometimes we can put these conditions on ourselves where Jesus will only heal me if I'm in this place, if I do this, if I do this. I think we have that backwards. I think when Jesus sees our faith, when we approach Jesus, he will heal us. He will heal us immediately. We might be on a journey after that. Following Jesus isn't always easy, but I think that he heals us immediately, and I love that. And different healings take longer. That might be a longer journey. Whatever Jesus has in store might be a long journey for you, but that healing and that love come immediately. That healing and love don't take months and months and months. Yes, if I don't know, if I rob a bank, I go rob $10,000 from a bank. I go in there and I steal it, and later something happens in my life. I think about Jesus. I feel bad, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make do with this. Jesus, please help me. Help me make this right. Help me recover. Help me be healed from what I've done, from that desire to steal, from the fear I caused and the people I stole this from, whatever it is. At what point is Jesus going to love you and accept you back? Right then. Immediately. After you get accepted and loved by Jesus, will you probably have to make some reparations? Yeah. You'll have to pay the $10,000 back. And you probably end up going to court. You might do a little jail time, whatever. And you might have some stuff to do, but Jesus' love is there in the beginning. Jesus is with you. Follow him. Immediately, he is with you. The very end of 52, chapter 10 here. Jesus saith unto him, Go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. So again, we have a two-part thing. He's healed from his sight and he is made whole. I love that. And immediately, almost always immediately, he receives his sight and followed Jesus in the way. He followed Jesus. He stuck with Jesus. And I'm going to have to do some research on why several other miracles, Jesus heals them and tells them to go away. Not go away, but like, you're healed. You can go back to your life now. Go do your thing. And in this case, Bartimaeus, he followed Jesus. He did not leave. He followed Jesus. And I love that because I think that initial healing or whatever, I think that's huge. And we can take that healing and we can walk away and we can live a far better life with what Jesus has given us. Or we can keep following him. 9 of the 10 lepers didn't come back. A lot of the people leave. Some of them come back and follow Jesus. This man followed Jesus after he was healed. Which I think it's easy to think like, of course he followed Jesus. I don't think that's as easy to say as easy said as done. This man, he's probably been thinking like, as soon as I want to look at the mountains, I want to look at the clouds, I want to see my family, I want to see my mom's face and my dad's face. If he was married, see his wife's face, his kids, like he's probably been daydreaming forever about all these things that he could see, and he followed Jesus. And I love that. He went from begging on the side of the road to putting his full trust in Jesus and following him. After he was healed, after he was made whole, and then followed Jesus. And I think sometimes we're like, yeah, I had that experience with Jesus. I was born again, like, and you are, and you feel like, I think this person was born again. He was healed. He was made whole. He's following Jesus, and he continued to follow Jesus. When you experience that love and warmth, you continue to follow him. So, guys, thanks again for watching. Encourage everyone, don't let the crowds, don't let the noise, don't let the phone, don't let the TikTok or Instagram or whatever be too noisy that you can't reach Jesus. Call out, reach out to Jesus through whatever noise it is, whatever voice is fighting back. Leave your old life behind and follow Jesus, and he will make you whole.